Hi, welcome to our Saturday transmission. I'm very happy to be here again as we try to do every Saturday. Welcome, and as we always say, we hope you are having not only a good day but a very good life. Well, today I'm going to share this transmission through my personal Facebook, and I hope that you can also share it with some more people so everyone can get a chance to take a look at this. I remind you that we also have our website, which is www.uncoa.com, where you can also watch our transmissions. We have transmissions in English, we have transmissions in Spanish during the whole week, every morning, and you can take a look and see if there are topics that interest you. You can share so more people get a chance to understand, to listen. What we're trying to do is establish a dialogue with as many people as we can, so that is the reason why we're trying to do this in different languages. I remind you that in our website we have a dialogue globe where you can, if you click on it, you can get a chance to send us a WhatsApp message, a Facebook message through Facebook Messenger, and we also have our phone number over here in Mexico, where you can send us messages through WhatsApp, which is plus 521-3320-554690. I'm going to say that again so you can take a look if you want to save it on your phone, so anytime you have a question you can send us messages. We will answer you anytime, so it doesn't matter if the transmission is over. If you have a question or anything that you can share or you want to tell us, you can send us messages anywhere, through the Facebook page, through the website, or directly on our phone number that we are giving you through the WhatsApp application. So it's plus 521-3320-554690. So today we're going to talk about a topic which might seem very simple, but I thought it would be very interesting to take a look at it, because what we are always talking about is taking control of your own life. So understanding yourself and taking a look at your own actions more than looking at the actions of other people and things that other people do. Basically, what we usually do is blame others for the things that don't work out the way we wish they would. So what we most of the time use as a tool to get out of the responsibility is using the excuses or the pretexts in order not to have to face the consequences of the actions that we are taking every day in our life. So what we're trying to do now is to start taking a look at all those things, all those resources that we have used through our life, and that we thought that they were harmless, because excuses seem to be a very harmless way to get out of things, to get out of the responsibility of things that get or do not get done. So looking at the word excuse, it seems that it's something very simple, but I was looking at the definition, at the synonyms of the word excuse or pretext, and it's directly related to lying, is directly related to evading, is directly related to getting a way out of things. So you might think that it's something very simple because it's something that you might think it doesn't hurt. But if you actually start taking a look at what an excuse is or what an excuse means, then you would realize that it's basically is being dishonest. Dishonest with other people and dishonest with yourself. So that is the reason why I thought it would be a very interesting topic to develop today, because we have to start looking at the things that we do in life and all those habits that we have developed throughout the years, thinking that they were okay. So if I give you basic examples, usually, for example, if you are late for work, sometimes you will just make up an excuse. If you look at the definition of excuse, then you realize that what you're actually doing is just making up lies, basically. Because sometimes when we think as a way of apologizing or saying that it was wrong but not so wrong, those are things that they actually reflect upon our ability to be responsible, to be honest, to be truthful, and to do things the right way. excuses are very much related to, for example, a lack of discipline. When usually most of the time we use excuses to explain things that didn't get done on time, that we didn't do the way we were supposed to do, or that we didn't do because we forgot. So what we do is just make up something that makes us or helps us to get out of the situation. Is like an easy way out. So excuses usually represent what you use to get out of a responsibility or a situation unharmed. So I want to do just explain to others why I didn't do it. But take a look at this phrase. For example, excuses will always be there, but the excuses are there for you, but the opportunity won't. So in this case, we're talking about the things that you could have done, you would have done if you had the responsibility, the order, or the discipline to do things, but you don't get them done because you are making up excuses. Sometimes we don't do things that we are supposed to do. Make a phone call, go to an appointment, talk to someone. And for example, if you have the opportunity to get a better job, but you don't do it because you are too lazy to make the call, to send the information, to be on time, the opportunity just passes you by. And then you will make up an excuse for yourself in your own mind, and then you will believe it. And when you believe it, it makes it all right for you to miss the opportunity. When you start to look at things differently, stop making excuses, then you get the opportunity to learn from whatever you do, to own up to the things that you are doing incorrectly, to take responsibility one more time. Because if I didn't get a job because I didn't get to the interview on time, or because I didn't send my resume, or because I was too lazy to make the call, then who's responsible for what I did wrong? Myself. So in that case, I have the opportunity to learn that if I don't do things in a certain way, if I'm not disciplined, if I'm not honest, if I'm not organized, then I'm going to start missing a lot of opportunities. And then what happens? That when things don't go the way they were supposed to go, according to the way I was thinking, then I'm going to say that life is unfair, that I'm very unlucky, that God is punishing me. And so what I'm going to do is take the responsibility and put it on someone else. That is the reason why excuses are very, very bad for you, because they don't let you grow, they don't let you advance. So that is the reason why some of these images that I found for you, which have phrases that I thought were very important, like this one: when I lost my excuses, I found my results. So a lot of times in life we are very disappointed because things don't work out the way we wished they did. Things don't work out the way we wanted them to go. But you have to look at the situation and think, how many or how much of the situation, how many of those results depend upon myself? Why didn't I do the things that I was supposed to do? Because I was using the excuses as a shield in order not to face reality. So as soon as you start and you stop making up excuses, as soon as you stop blaming someone else for the things that don't go the way you wish they did, then you're going to start finding the results that you so much desire to find. So maybe thinking about an excuse, could seem something harmless, but it is actually something that will not let you grow, that will not let you find your personal evolution. So that is why we have to start owning up to everything we do. If we understand the law of cause and effect, then we will know that everything that happens for a reason, and that reason is usually directly related to my own action. So sometimes when we do things that are wrong and we realize that they were wrong, so for example, take a look at this phrase that says, never ruin an apology with an excuse. Sometimes we know that we were wrong, and instead of saying, I was wrong, I want to apologize, you start apologizing, and the next thing that you do is take something in order to hold on to that. You create that reason that is not true, that is not real, and then what you're doing is like you are apologizing but not really, because what you're saying is, I'm sorry, but it's not my fault. It is your fault if you were late, if you didn't do things right, if you did something to hurt someone else, and you are making up excuses, then you are not growing as a person. You are missing your opportunity to do things right. When we know that we were wrong, then we have to accept that we were wrong. It's your opportunity to say, I should have done things this way, but I did it the opposite way. I did it differently. I should have done this way. So that is when you start being smart, analyzing your actions and learning from them. And the worst part is that we are teaching our children to learn to make up excuses. So, for example, if they don't do the homework because you were out of the house the whole afternoon, then you teach your kid to tell the teacher, well, just tell her that you didn't do it because we weren't at home, or just tell her that we didn't do it because you didn't have the material or the pencils or the paper or the colors that you needed to complete your task. So that is wrong, because we're teaching our kids to lie. But saying that it's an excuse, just changing the word from lie to excuse, makes it okay. And that is not really okay. So that is the reason why we have to start really looking at what an excuse is and learning. Is it an excuse? Is it a lie? Am I being dishonest? And am I trying to just use this as a way out of the things that I'm not completing or doing the way they were supposed to? When I was teaching fourth graders. I remember they used to come into the classroom, and a lot of times they would say, and they would think it would be okay to say that they didn't do the homework or that they didn't do an assignment because something happened. Maybe because they didn't have the glue to complete the assignment, because they didn't have the colors that they needed, the color pencils or the markers or whatever to complete the assignment, because they went to their grandmother's house and they were visiting and they didn't have the time to complete the task, etc., etc. So whenever they came up to me and they said that it was okay, they didn't do the homework because there was something else or they had something else to do, I would usually say, well, really, that is an excuse. And so it was very interesting because the way they used to sit in the classroom, it was in a semicircle. So most of the kids would get a chance to listen to any excuses that the other ones gave for not giving the homework. So what we usually did, it was like whenever they gave an excuse, I would ask the rest of the kids, but not in a way in which I wanted to make them feel bad. It was just in a way trying to make them feel noticed that what they were using in order to get out of the situation was an excuse. So whenever they said, I would ask who did the homework, and everyone said I did the homework, I would come up to them and just check if they did. And usually one of the kids or two would say, I didn't do it because of this reason. So I would ask the rest of the class, how do you call these? How do you call this reason that he's giving me or that she's giving me for not doing the homework? Most of the times the kids were very clear upon that, and they would say, that's an excuse. That's a pretext. And I would ask them, what do we do with excuses? We just throw them in the garbage because they don't work. They are no good. They don't help anyone, and they don't change the fact that you didn't do the homework. So it would take something that is completely out of your possibility or your control in order to be really an apology or an excuse. For example, if you didn't do the homework because you fell and you broke your arm, then that's something that really would classify as an excuse, really, in order not to do the homework. But we get really confused between something that is an excuse and something that is just a lie. It has to be something that is completely out of your reach in order to be an excuse. Something that I cannot control, something that is out of my lead. In that case, then it would apply, or I could use it. It would classify as something that really excuses the fact that I didn't do it. Okay? So most of the time what we do is just shield behind false ideas, between false reasons that do not classify as a real way of getting out of a situation, or a real apology or a real excuse. And I hope I'm making sense out of this that I'm saying, because it's important you understand the difference. Something that I cannot control, then that really excuses me. Something that I can control, if I was late because I'm lazy, because I didn't get up on time, because I wasn't organized enough in order to go out and catch the bus on time and be at work on time, that's not an excuse. That's me being lazy. That's me being disorganized. That's me not being disciplined. That's very different. Until I understand that, until I learn that whatever I do depends on whatever I do, how I do it, how I organize my time, how I learn to do it differently, and that I learned from the results that I get. If I'm always late when I go to work, If I'm always late when I go to an appointment, if I'm always late when I go to a date, if I'm always late when I go to school, it means that I'm just not punctual. I'm always late because I'm very disorganized. And I can make up millions of excuses in order to get out of the situation and don't make the other person angry, but they already know me, the way that I act. So what is the opportunity there? Change. Own whatever you do, learn from what you do, start working and acting differently. The thing about human beings is that we use excuses, and that is why this is a very important topic, because it's a resource that we use all the time in order to get out of anything. As soon as we place the name excuse, then we think that it's okay to do it that way, even if it's not okay. So whenever we do something to hurt other people, we use excuses, and what happens is that we do not learn. We continue to do things the same way, even though they are wrong. So what happens is that we go through life blaming others, making up excuses, and not learning about our own actions. And that is something that we have to understand differently. And so this is an image that I really liked, and I'm glad that I have it behind me. So take a look at this one. It says, I wonder how much of this is real and how much I've fabricated to excuse my own behavior. This is very, very profound. How much of this is real? A lot of the things that I have around my life, I just made them up in order to excuse my own behavior, which means I am not taking responsibility. And what happens is that human beings have the ability to lie their way through life, and then it comes to a point in which you believe your own lies yourself. And so you're going to go and say, I wasn't successful because my parents didn't do, because someone didn't give me, because someone hurt me. In reality, you have the opportunity to change your life every day. So most of the time we explain, even if your parents didn't give you everything that you needed, that is not an excuse not to have a great life, because you build in your head all these lies in which you go and you think you build a comfort zone, and in that comfort zone you make up all these reasons why it is okay for you to be unhappy. You make up all these reasons why it is okay not to be successful, not to be excellent, not to be peaceful, not to have a great life, because everyone else did something, so that is an excuse for me to have a very unhappy life. That is why we have to understand those are just excuses, and excuses do not help. You have to start facing reality, learning how much of your life is real and how much is just fabricated, not real. How much of that, the things, the reasons, the arguments that you build up in your head are something that is real, or something that you just created in order to avoid facing this truth, facing the real facts, facing your own responsibility. That is why understanding myself is important. That is why here the main information and the main objective of the teaching, of the knowledge that we share, is learning to know your own self. That is the path that we're trying to get you through. Why do you act that way? Why do you think that way? Why do you believe in whatever you believe? Start being truthful to your own self, learning if you're acting that way, you are responsible from it. You cannot say that it's because someone else said, or someone else taught you, or someone else believed that way. You are you, and you have to start taking control of your own life in order to get the results that you are looking for. So that is what we're trying to achieve here by working on our own selves day by day, learning to understand me, learning to comprehend me, learning to look at my own reasons, my own actions, and then changing my life around. But if we are always hiding behind excuses, you are never going to walk the path towards evolution and success, because it's someone else's fault things are the way they are. If I'm late to work, it's because the boss was late. If I'm late to work, it's because the alarm didn't ring. So you blame it on the alarm, you blame it on the boss, you blame it on the bus driver. Sometimes you say because the power went off, because something. And what happens is that if you are more organized and more disciplined, then you will have less excuses and more reasons in order to do things better. So everything that happens in the wrong way, the only thing that gives you is the opportunity to learn. So whenever I'm late, that's a chance for me to understand that I'm not disciplined, that I have to be on time. What do I have to change? If I always say that I'm late because something else because the reason was something other than myself, then I will never learn. When I start saying, well, I'm always late, looking at the situation, most of the time I'm late because I'm not organized. What do I have to change in my life? That is why we always say, you have to start analyzing your actions and then learning how you can change those actions to actually change your life. If you're always having bad relationships because your actions are not the right ones, but you're always blaming it on the other one, then you will never have the opportunity to actually have a good relationship. Because if you're being mean, or because if you're being dishonest, or because if you're being aggressive, and that is the reason why your relationships do not work with other people, but you're always thinking that it's the other one's fault, then you will never change. Look at yourself and say, I have to act differently. I have to do things differently. I have to be something, and I have to do something in a different way. And learning that, it doesn't mean that you do not accept yourself. It means I accept myself for who I am and what I am, but I can make myself a better self. I can make myself a better person in order for me to be happier. Not because you want to change yourself for others or to make others happy, but you want to change yourself in order to make your own self happier. So I hope you're getting the idea of what we are trying to say. So I'm just going to take a little pause in order to say hello to the people who are joining the live transmission. So I want to say hello to Jose Garcia, who's already watching, Angel Santos, Ana Belén Campos, Tonic Corleone, Berta Quesada. I'm looking at it myself because I wanted to share it. Who else is over there? Yeah. And before me, I think there was someone else. So that is what we're trying to get you to analyze, to understand that excuses do not help. Excuses just make you evade reality, evade your own responsibility, and that doesn't help. We as humans have learned to be evasive of the real reasons why we are not working, advancing, and getting where we want to go. It is easier for us to make up excuses. For example, you meet someone that you like, and you meet someone that you love, and you don't go ahead and you don't have a relationship. Why? Because you're always finding all the reasons not to be happy, all the reasons not to be with that person. So whenever you look at an obstacle, whenever you look at a barrier, you look at something that might not make it easy for you to, talking about love, if you have someone you want to be with, you have to look at not all the reasons why you shouldn't be with that person, but also look at the reasons, or look at the possibilities how you can change things in order to be with that person. Instead of making up excuses not to be happy, not to be plentiful, not to be with someone that you love. But it's easier for us to hide behind wrong reasons, made up reasons, and then just not be happy. So somehow we are just sabotaging ourselves all the time because we don't want to look at things the way they really are. It is easier just to say, why? Because you are afraid. So usually an excuse is a way to hide myself because I am afraid, because I feel this fear of knowing what's after that, what's behind that, what am I gonna find if I take the leap in order to change my life, in order to be with that person that I love, in order to go after the new job, in order to go to the new school, in order to live in a different city. I'm always making up excuses. No, they offered me a job in Amsterdam, but I'm not gonna go because it would be very difficult to move to a different city. Why would it be difficult? Because I'm not gonna have any friends. You will find friends. I can't move from my city because I'm gonna miss my family. You can always visit your family, etc., etc., etc. So I don't know the language. you can always learn the language. So that is the thing, that we are always making up excuses in order not to make changes because we are afraid. We don't know what's after. We don't know what's out there, and we don't want to face it. We don't want to learn new things. We don't want to go after our dreams because we are too afraid. So fear makes us make excuses. So that's another reason why we make excuses. So we are talking about excuses being directly related to dishonesty, to lies, to fear, to guilt, because I don't want to learn from myself that I actually am guilty of whatever I did or for whatever I did. So that is one of the other reasons why we make up excuses. We don't want to face our own guilt. But guilt doesn't help. So if I know that I failed, if I know that I did something wrong, if I know that I hurt someone because my actions were wrong, if I just hide behind the guilt and use an excuse in order not to face whatever I did, I'm not going to learn from my actions. Guilt doesn't help. So I'm just going to put the guilt aside, not because I don't care, but because I'm trying to be smart. I'm trying to be intelligent. So I'm going to face the situation and say, yes, I was wrong. But instead of landing on guilt land, what I'm going to do is learning from whatever I did. If you identify your mistake, just never do it again. That's something that we always say here. If you know it was a mistake, if you know it was wrong, as soon as you notice it was wrong, as soon as you realized that it was wrong, then just don't do it again, ever. I know that it is wrong to lie. I know that it is wrong to do things that way. I know that it is wrong to hurt someone. Now I know. Well, now you know. Well, now it's time to change. Now it's time to do it differently. Now it's time to learn from your own actions instead of making up excuses. What happens is, if you're someone who cheats on other people and then you make up excuses, you're going to say because it was their own fault. And that is just a lie, because everyone is responsible for their own actions. So that is where I'm trying to get. And then, as I was saying, we teach our kids, we teach our children, we teach others to use excuses as a way to get out of the responsibility. And what happens in the long run? We don't get the opportunity to learn. And that is something that as human beings are missing all the time. So the other day I was giving an example of how, for example, if you put a mouse in a maze, the mouse is going to learn because it's going to try over and over to get to the, to the way out, or if you put a piece of cheese there, the mouse is going to find the way to get there. How? Trial and error. The mouse is going to go the path 1, 2, 3 or 4 times until it finds the way out. How is the mouse going to learn? Because the mouse is going to remember that if he goes a certain way, if he goes through a certain path, he's gonna go and he's gonna find another wall. Because that is how the mouse is going to learn. Why are we as human beings not smart enough in order to learn that if we have done things the same way over and over and they do not work out for us, then we need to do things differently? But we don't want to, because we are in our comfort zone. We are making up excuses in order to continue doing things the same way, and that is not intelligent at all. In order for me to try to do things differently, what I have to do is to start analyzing, learning, and accepting my actions. That is the way that I'm going to find the opportunity in order to actually change my actions and find whatever is after that. But as human beings, we are way too afraid in order to realize that our results are directly related to our own actions from the beginning. And that is why we always explain very clearly the law of cause and effect. You were always living through lies. What are the results that you're going to get? If you're not facing the actions that took you, that led you to where you are right now, how are you going to change your whole life? So if you continue to do the same things the same way, what results do you think you're going to get? So as Einstein used to say, he was saying that human beings are crazy because we're always doing the same things expecting different results. And that doesn't make any sense at all. If you want to change our life, if we want to do things different, if we're going to get different results, what we have to do is start acting differently, working differently, thinking differently, believing different things, opening the possibilities. But what happens is we always just land on this area in which we feel comfortable. We don't want to move from there, and then we are complaining that we feel alone. We don't feel that anyone understands, but we don't want to move from the place we are. And then I have a comment from our friend Jose Garcia that says, making excuses makes us going back in the wrong direction. Exactly, because what you're going to do is you make an excuse, and what happens is you continue going back to do the same thing over and over again. And if the result is not the result that you were expecting, or the result is not a good result, it's not something that is going to take you to the change that you're looking for, what's going to happen? You're going to just be there. Imagine going over and over as if you were in a wheel. Imagine that you are a hamster just running on a wheel, just doing the same thing over and over and over again, getting nowhere. Exactly the way Jose says, it's you're going back in the wrong direction, because you're always going back to do the same wrong thing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and as many times as possible. But you need to get out of the hamster wheel and start acting, thinking, looking at things differently. You have to start building a different conscience for yourself. And that is why we always explain that you have an instinct. You have an instinctive conscience, which is the animalistic part of yourself. That one just works and acts, but just by desire, whatever it wants, whenever it wants it. And then you have your genetic conscience, and your genetic conscience is filled with all the garbage. And I don't want to say it in an offensive way, but it's just filled with all the garbage that you inherited, and with all the information that you got from someone else throughout the time, all the experiences from the family, all the mental states, all the mental archives that they were saving from whatever experience they had, and you inherit that, and you act through that without even being conscious or being aware of those actions that you are taking every day, all the time, and they are not even your own. So what you have to do is to start building a positive conscience. How am I going to go to the positive conscience? Learning from my actions, learning from my feelings, observing whatever I do, analyzing. So that is why everything I do represents a possibility. So it's important to start thinking differently, to stop making excuses, and to owning up to whatever I do. And Jose continues to say, and if we do the same always, same results always. Exactly, Jose. That's exactly what I was saying. And Einstein used to say it too. So that must be a very good remark. That must be a very smart observation, because Einstein used to say that human beings are the only ones that always do the same things, trying to find different results. How is that going to work? If I do the same thing over and over and over, how is that going to give me a different result? So, for example, think about the men throughout history who created important inventions. Let's think about, I don't know, let's think about Tesla, let's think about Alva Edison, let's think about all those, I don't know, the creator or the founder of penicillin, or Marie Curie. What did they do? They were experimenting, doing things differently in order to find the result that they were looking for. I don't believe that they did everything exactly the same way every time, because what happens if I do everything exactly the same way all the time? The result is going to be exactly the same one. So it also works in the other way around. If I do exactly something that is positive for me, so that I'm going to learn that every time I do it that way, it's going to come out the way that I want it to. Let's imagine that you're preparing a recipe. If I make a cake and I want it to turn out good, and I do it a specific, I don't know, I follow the steps of the recipe, and the cake is perfect, I know that if I do it exactly the same way every time, I'm gonna get the exact same cake. And if that's what I'm looking for, I'm always going to do it exactly the same way. But let's imagine, one day I was sharing, I had a situation in which I was making cookies. I was making chocolate chip cookies, and I knew the recipe almost by heart. So every time I used to do the recipe over and over and over again, and I had all the ingredients on the table, and I used to do it all the time. But from time to time I used to look at the recipe, just because I was worried that if I didn't do it the exact same way, I wouldn't get the cookies exactly the way that I wanted them. And I was making the cookies because people asked me, and I was selling the cookies, so they had to be perfect. I remember one time I was in a big hurry and I just made the cookies quickly without looking at the recipe. And what happened? Is that I was in such a hurry that I, instead of using baking soda, I used baking powder. So what happened was that the cookies, you know how chocolate chip cookies are like very flat and very gooey. And what happened was that these cookies were puffy. They just started puffing up like balloons. And I was very surprised because I didn't understand, because I didn't notice that I had made a mistake. And all the afternoon I was thinking, how come these cookies are puffy instead of being flat? If chocolate chip cookies are flat, and why are my cookies like that? They were really like balloons. They were all fluffed up. So I went back over and over and over in my head trying to realize what I had done wrong. And then finally looking at the ingredients, and then I noticed that I had made a mistake because I had used the baking powder instead of the baking soda. Where is the story? Why am I going on and on about this story? The thing is that when I took the time to analyze all the steps that I had taken, then I noticed where the mistake had been. So next time that I made the cookies, I realized I will always look at the recipe even though I know the recipe, but in order for me not to forget or confuse or make a mistake. So that way I can assure that my cookies are perfect all the time by taking the same steps, by analyzing, observing, and also by taking the time, because if I'm in a hurry, then I can make mistakes. So that was a learning experience from something so very simple as making cookies. So what happens when you in your life take the time to go back in your steps and analyze what went wrong, then you have the possibility to change whatever you did that wasn't correct and got you the results that you didn't want to. In that case, you own up to whatever you did, you learn, and you don't have to make up excuses. For example, with the cookies, I could have made an excuse and could have said that it was the weather, or I could have said that someone was pressuring me in order to hurry up, etc., etc. The thing is, I made a mistake, I learned from my mistake, and then I have the possibility not to make the same mistake again. So excuses are lies wrapped up in reason. Exactly. That's very important to learn. So what we do is that we take all this time, and that's very important because we waste a lot of time. We take all this time in order to say, no, it's because I was trying to do it, but I didn't get in time, because my mother called me, because... So you waste all this time trying to explain, trying to make right something that is not right. Because it is a lie, because it doesn't have any I would say it doesn't have any grounds in order to support whatever you're saying. So we waste so much time and effort trying to make right something that is not right, trying to make true something that is not true. So what you do is take all this time, embellish as a present something that is not a present, is a lie. So that is why we should just say, I was wrong and I'm going to learn from my mistake. How? I don't know, but I'm going to take the time. So all the time that you are wasting trying to explain your excuse and trying to make the other one believe you and understand, just don't waste it. Take the time in order for you to think, to analyze, and to get where you want to do. If you were wrong, just say that you were wrong. It's important to learn to say, you know what, I'm late because I was wrong. I was lazy. I didn't get up on time. You know what, I hurt you because I told you a lie and that was wrong. Because if you are going to apologize and then go and hide behind the excuse and take all this time and all this effort to explain your behavior, the only thing that is going to happen is you're going to waste your time and you're not going to learn from your mistake. So don't make excuses and don't talk about it. Just do it. So you are always saying, I was going to go and find that new job, but I didn't do it because I had a lot of things to do. Well, organize your time. I was going to go to that new school and learn English. A lot of people say, I wanted to learn English, but I didn't have the time because I had to do this and this and this. And they take all the time to convince themselves that they were right not to do it that way. That is the worst part, when you are taking all this time and all this effort to convince your own self of something that is not true. Making up excuses to convince your own self is such a waste of time. So that is where You have to start learning, looking at yourself and thinking a real excuse should be something that you cannot control. That is why I gave you the example about if I fall down, I break my leg, I can't go to the appointment. Well, that would really be something that I can't control. And even so, if I fell down because I wasn't careful enough, it is my responsibility. So this one is important. If you're confused about why you aren't where you want to be, you need to write down a list of your excuses and realize everything on that list is why. So let's take a look at this sentence one more time. If you are confused about why you aren't where you want to be, you need to write down. So that is also that makes it important. I'm going to be analytic. I'm going to write down things. I'm not just gonna make it on my head. You need to write down a list of your excuses and realize everything in that list is the reason why you are not where you want to be. Be truthful to your own self, not thinking about how you're going to explain to others why you are not where you want to be. Taking the time to analyze and to think, okay, let me see. I thought I was going to be somewhere at this time. I thought I was going to have a very successful business. Why don't you have a successful business? I don't have the time. Do you really not have the time? Start writing the reasons. Start writing why you didn't get where you wanted to get. Why didn't you study that? Or why didn't you open your business? Or why don't you have a good relationship? Or why haven't you changed your own self for a better person? Why aren't you using the important values in your life? Learning means taking the time to write things down and understand. There is an exercise that is important. For example, when you have the analyzing the law of cause and effect. For example, if you take a look at the effects of the results that you have right now, start thinking about things that you don't like in your life right now. Let's say, I don't like my situation, I don't know, my emotional situation, my economic situation, my professional situation. Anything that you don't like in your life, write it down. And then go back and look at the reasons why things are the way they are. In order to change your life, you have to understand what you did in the past in order to get where you are. I'm alone. Why are you alone? Well, anyone who came up to me, I rejected because I was too afraid, or because I mistreated everyone, or because I was aggressive, or because I was violent. So in order for me to understand why things are the way they are right now, what I have to do is look at the causes that gave me these effects. Do not make up excuses. Be truthful to your own self. Write it down for you. Nobody else is going to look at it, just you. But that is going to give you the opportunity to change in the future. It doesn't mean that if you did something wrong in the past and you get bad results in the present, doesn't mean that you don't have the opportunity to change in the future. Right now I have the opportunity to change. Okay, I took the leap, I learned, now I'm going to do it differently. So your excuses are what you use in order to sabotage your own self. Excuses are the enemy of excellence. Why? Because it makes it okay for me not to be excellent. It makes it okay for me not to be intelligent. Excuses make it okay for me to blame someone else, because usually excuses are a way of saying that someone else is responsible, not me. Well, you have to start being responsible for your own self. And I have a comment from Jose that says, by the way, I love that Hispanic accent. Well, I'm Hispanic, so it has to be that way. Okay. So it is important for us to start understanding that everything is up to us. So that is usually what we say here. You have to start learning that things are up to you. Change is up to you. Learning is up to you. You do not have to put everything on someone else, because everyone is responsible for their own actions, for their own learning process. Everyone has a process in their life. You have your own process. How do you want to go through that process? Learning or just landing there and staying there in your comfort zone? What we want to do here is give you tools in order for you to change your results in your life. So I really want you to take a look at how many of the things you do you have done the way you did, and you were just hiding behind excuses not to do it differently. If your life is happy, if you are okay with whatever you have, will continue doing it the same way you have been doing it. But if you don't like the things that you have right now, you don't like your results, you don't like the way you are living your life, well, it's time for you to stop making excuses and start living a better life, a different life. Do not do things the same way if you're not getting the results that you desire. Just to start looking at the results and saying, this I don't like, but I'm not going to blame anyone but myself. And do not land on guilt. Just say, I'm taking responsibility for my life in order to do things differently. That is very important. Taking a look and understanding the only one who can change my life is me. No matter what my parents did, no matter what my boss does, if I don't like my job, I go find a different job. If I don't like my career, I find a different career. You can't blame others for whatever you have right now. Do not make up excuses, just make a change. Okay? So, I hope this is helpful for you. I hope you like the topic for today. If you have any other comments, even if the transmission is not live anymore, you can still leave the comments and we will give you answers, and we will read your comments, and we will give you a like if it's necessary. So I really appreciate you sticking around, taking a look at the transmission, sharing to others, and help us please get to as many people as possible, because that is our main goal. We want to change the world. We're trying to do things differently. So we're trying to take action. We're trying to do things, not making up excuses in order not to help more people. And something I wanted to share with you is that here, our institution, we have a public place where we feed people. We feed the poor, people who do not have food to eat. And right now, we are cooking, preparing, and sharing about 600 meals a day. If you are someone who would like to help us feed more people, just get in touch with us, because the thing we do here is that all of us are volunteers, and the way that our institution lives financially is through donations. All of us donate our time, our money, our will, our love, in order to make this project continue. So if you find it in your heart to give us some of your time, of your money, of your love, well, get in touch with us, because we are in a real need for help, and we would really appreciate. So if everything in the universe is cause and effect, so I'm inviting you to do good things in order to get good reactions. And so my name is Abril Medina. I'm here. I always appreciate you listening and being with us. And I always ask you, how can I be of service for any one of you? If you have questions, I will answer the questions at any time, any hour. And as we always say, we do not hope and wish that you have a good day or a good weekend or a good vacation or a Merry Christmas. We hope your whole life is wonderful. So that is the reason why we always say that I hope and I wish that you have a very good life.